So far, I've had the chance to watch Marvel's latest hit, Avengers Infinity War, 3 times in theaters. You can see my thoughts on that movie specifically in one of the links below in the description. With each new viewing, I find myself enjoying the film more and more, but as I saw it for a third and final time, something struck me. Not that I haven't noticed this before, but I never really grasped how much the action movie genre has had a problem with this until now. This problem is big, powerful, invincible villains. What do I mean by this? Well, in so many superhero and action flicks in general, there's an antagonist who can take unlimited amounts of punishment with no real effect. So fights between our protagonist and antagonist go on, and can even cause massive devastation, but what we're watching is completely pointless and empty.
Many months later. So much later that the old narrator got tired of waiting and they had to hire a new one.
Because I began this video with Infinity War, that seems like a good example to start with, to show exactly what I mean. But don't get me wrong, I very much enjoyed Infinity War, and Thanos is easily one of Marvel's best villains, not that he has much competition. So don't take this as a rant on Infinity War, just one small aspect of it. Mild spoiler alert if you haven't seen this movie, by the way. So, in Infinity War, one of the groups of heroes, which consists of Iron Man, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Star-Lord, Drax, and Mantis, lands on Thanos' ruined home planet of Titan. Once Purple Shrek returns after collecting more Infinity Stones, our protagonists ambush him and launch a ferocious attack. In the fight that follows, Thanos gets punched and kicked by Spider-Man. Yes, the Spider-Man strong enough to do this.
Look at you go. Wow, nice catch. 3,000 pounds, 40 miles an hour. It's not easy.
He also gets blasted by Star-Lord, a bomb literally detonates on his back, and probably worst of all, Iron Man drops an entire spaceship on him. This is tons upon tons of metal just smashed right on top of Thanos, and he's perfectly alright. Later in this confrontation, when Tony Stark goes head to head with Thanos, he unleashes everything he has. He puts every rocket, special punch, and kick he has into this fight, with the only progress being a scratch on Thanos' cheek. It's kind of ridiculous. Again, don't get the sense that I'm hating on Infinity War. Nah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Even in one of my favorite movies of all time, Spider-Man 2, a similar occurrence happens, which makes no sense. In an epic battle on a speeding train, the super strong Spider-Man, who's capable of stopping said train, throws everything he has at the villain Doc Ock. Octavius, by the way, never took any super serum to make him powerful, or got bitten by a radioactive octopus or something. No, he's just an average dude who has metal arms attached to him. Yet he's able to take several punches and kicks to the face from a man who can essentially lift buildings, and be perfectly fine. Okay, so this is a common occurrence in action movies, but why is it a problem? Well, the way I see it, if all the fighting, the punching, kicking, and smashing have no recognizable impact on either the protagonist or antagonist, then it really just serves as completely empty visual spectacle. Don't get me wrong, spectacle, awe, and wonder have their place in cinema, but when these pointless battles go from 5 to 10 minutes or so, they get boring. They overstay their welcome. It gets to the point when you're just yelling at the characters to stop with the fighting. Clearly what they're doing isn't working. If I punched someone through a building and they came out perfectly fine, my next step wouldn't be to keep trying the same thing over and over until it eventually works. This is exactly what Superman does in Man of Steel for a pointlessly dragged out sequence. Isn't that the definition of insanity? Following this logic, aren't all these heroes insane? Superman especially levels half of Metropolis just to get a few more cool looking punches on Zod, killing thousands, when these punches clearly are not having any effect, and when they're done with that, there's no noticeable difference. So thousands just died for nothing. Let me repeat that, the legendary kind-hearted Superman just killed thousands for nothing. It's all just pointless action that eats up crucial runtime, and ultimately wastes the audience's time. This isn't to say that indestructible antagonists don't have their place though. An enemy you can't beat works wonders for the horror genre. In the original Resident Evil, Yeah, that game's not that scary, maybe with the exception of a few jump scares. But how much more intense and scarier is Resident Evil 3 when an unstoppable monster, Nemesis, is hunting you throughout the city as opposed to the easily killable zombies? And in Amnesia, where your only defenses are to run or hide, ramps up the tension to level 11. So this isn't a universal problem. Anyways, how do we go about in fixing this problem when it is a problem? How can we have cool, intimidating villains that go down in a more believable amount of time and don't waste screen time? One really good way to solve this can be found in, of course, the king of actions and crime dramas for a decade, The Dark Knight. The Joker in The Dark Knight is just a normal person with no special powers and abilities. Any hand-to-hand confrontation with the highly skilled and prepared Batman would quickly be his undoing. So how do they make their battles engaging? The answer is simple. Make the battle more than the physical. The Dark Knight can easily throw down with the Joker, but winning the hearts and minds of Gotham citizens is a totally different story. I hope we all remember this climactic battle. There are two boats evacuating people out of Gotham, one with average civilians and the other with inmates, but Joker rigged bombs in both of them. Each boat is given the detonator to the other's bomb. If one blows the other up, then they'd be safe, but if neither blow the other up, then they both explode. This dilemma tests the morals of the citizens of Gotham. Will they be willing to blow up maybe 100 inmates for their own safety, or be willing to lay down their lives to either help the others or go down together? It's a test to show whether Batman or Joker's ideology is correct. Are people inherently selfish, and once the dung hits the fan, they'd be willing to do anything for their own survival? Or is there more to us? Would we be willing to cooperate in such desperate times and put others before ourselves? Right there is an interesting conflict that I can write an entire video about. The fight here in The Dark Knight isn't just an endless, pointless slugfest, but a thought-provoking, impactful one. It's more than the physical, but the ideological. Another fix to this problem would be to simply show the deterioration of the challengers as the fight progresses. Instead of everyone coming back perfectly fine after each hit, show them get worn out, like the action is actually playing an effect on the characters. A physical example of this would be the Rocky movies. Throughout the boxing matches, the contestants get tired, bloodied, and bruised. Their faces fall apart. We see Rocky and whoever he's fighting grow tired and sluggish towards the end. Heck, in Rocky 2, Rocky and Apollo are barely punching each other. They're more like flailing their arms in the other's direction. We can easily grasp the physical toll these fights are having, adding to the drama and impact of the match's final rounds. This deterioration can not only be physical, but mental. Perhaps in the time span of the battle, the fighters actually begin to change the way they think or their approach to the fight, as opposed to trying the same thing over and over again for 5 minutes. We can see a good example of this in the Empire Strikes Back's climactic duel between Luke and Vader. And just for the sake of getting to the point, I want to just look at Vader and how he reacts during this confrontation. This is how it begins. Just in the mannerisms, we see how both adversaries are cocky. Vader especially goes in thinking he'll wrap this up in seconds. He even starts the lightsaber duel using only one hand to casually block all of Luke's attacks. However, Darth Vader begins to realize how he's underestimated his opponent after Luke escapes the freezing chamber. He also gets knocked back and sliced on the shoulder too. So we see Vader adapt his approach. He tries using stealth, striking at Luke from the shadows, and also throwing objects at him with the Force. As Luke keeps managing to fight back and survive the onslaught of attacks, the once cocky, one-handed Vader begins to use all his might to subdue Luke, slashing at him with tremendous amounts of frustration and aggression until he gets his hand. So overall, what we see from these movies is that we don't have to have these long, drawn-out battles in which the antagonist never gets hurt, even after loads of deadly hits and lots of screen time. We don't have to watch idly as pointless, unbelievable, and inconsequential action takes place. Instead, how about giving battles that have meaning? Battles that actually affect the people who are fighting, instead of just being there to check off the box of cool action sequence. The Dark Knight found a solution by making the battle more than just a physical punching and kicking. Rocky actually had the competitors falling apart from exhaustion, And Star Wars presented a villain who actually tried different tactics to subdue his adversary, and showed emotional deterioration throughout. Okay, again, Infinity War and Spider-Man 2 are both great films, but these are small places where they could use a bit of improvement. Character does show in both fight scenes I mentioned, with Infinity War tossing in some comedic moments throughout, and the transformation of the lighthearted, whimsical Spider-Man into a ferocious beast going after Doc Ock. But suspension of disbelief fades, as even a normal dude is surviving this onslaught, and Thanos, just a big alien, survives literally anything. But hey, it could be worse. They could be Man of Steel. In future action films, I hope this is something the filmmakers take a look and improve upon. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, to please leave a like and subscribe. See you next week.